This paper offers a structured and conceptually ambitious attempt to reinterpret China's media system beyond conventional authoritarian or market-based models by proposing a six-force framework that integrates political control, state regulation, market dynamics, professional norms, public participation, and cultural influence. Its strength lies in synthesizing institutional analysis with historical and philosophical perspectives, particularly through the incorporation of cultural factors and classical Chinese thought, which are often underrepresented in Western media theory. By grounding its argument in both contemporary examples and systemic abstraction, the paper positions itself as a corrective to overly reductive interpretations, while also seeking to establish a distinctly Chinese analytical lens for understanding media operations. The introduction establishes that China's media system cannot be adequately explained by a single ideological framework, but instead operates as a hybrid structure shaped by multiple interacting forces, including political, economic, professional, social, and cultural influences. The paper's purpose is to analyze how these forces function together within an integrated system and to develop a new explanatory model rooted in a Chinese perspective, combining contemporary institutional arrangements with deeper historical and cultural foundations to better account for the system's complexity and internal dynamics. The CCTV Spring Festival Gala serves as a central case, illustrating how the Chinese media system operates under simultaneous and often competing pressures from multiple forces. As a national media event, it must align with party ideology and government objectives, generate commercial revenue, uphold professional production standards, engage public participation, and reflect cultural identity, revealing the intricate coordination required across political, economic, social, and cultural domains. The example demonstrates that Chinese media content is not shaped by a single authority, but instead emerges from ongoing negotiation among these intersecting demands. The Chinese media system is organized into three primary categories: traditional media, internet media, and mobile media, which together form an integrated and interdependent structure. Traditional media, including newspapers, television, and radio, are predominantly owned or controlled by the state, while internet and mobile media are shaped by telecommunications providers and a mix of state and private capital. Despite differences in ownership and operational models, these sectors are not isolated. They interact continuously, creating a unified system in which institutional, technological, and economic elements are closely interconnected. The paper conceptualizes the Chinese media system as being shaped by six core forces: party force, governmental force, capital force, professional force, individual force, and cultural force, each representing distinct sources of influence originating from political authority, state regulation, market dynamics, media practitioners, public participation, and civilizational values. These forces operate simultaneously rather than hierarchically, interacting within a relatively closed system where influence is continuously negotiated. The diagram on page 3 depicts this arrangement as a dynamically balanced structure, emphasizing that no single force fully determines media outcomes, but instead that stability emerges from the ongoing interplay among all six. Analysis of each force. Party force refers to the influence of the Chinese Communist Party over the media system, exercised primarily through institutions such as the Central Propaganda Department and embedded party structures within media organizations. This influence operates through mechanisms including ownership of key outlets, financial support, and comprehensive censorship, ensuring that media content aligns with official ideology and political priorities. As a result, media function not as independent platforms but as instruments for disseminating party doctrine, maintaining social cohesion, and reinforcing the authority and stability of the state. Governmental force refers to the influence of state institutions over the media system through regulatory authority, licensing requirements, and administrative control exercised by agencies at multiple levels of government. Grounded in long-standing authoritarian governance traditions and reinforced by legal and bureaucratic frameworks, this force shapes media behavior by determining who can produce content, what can be distributed, and how violations are addressed through enforcement and penalties. Its role extends beyond censorship to structuring the operational environment of media, ensuring alignment with national interests and policy objectives. Capital force arises from the commercialization of China's media sector following market reforms, introducing profit-driven dynamics through advertising, sponsorship, investment, and competitive business practices. Media organizations increasingly operate with revenue generation goals, attracting both private and state-linked capital, yet these market mechanisms do not function independently. Instead, they are moderated by ongoing state intervention, producing a hybrid environment in which the invisible hand of the market is continuously shaped by a visible hand of political and regulatory control. Professional force originates from media practitioners such as editors, journalists, and producers whose work is guided by norms like factual accuracy, objectivity, and timeliness. While they do not typically control final decision-making, they exert influence from within media organizations by shaping content and upholding professional standards. This force is also informed by the historical legacy of Chinese intellectuals, particularly the scholar official tradition, which frames media work as a form of social responsibility, leading practitioners to negotiate with and at times resist pressures from political and commercial forces. Individual force refers to the influence of ordinary citizens as media audiences, whose role has expanded significantly with the rise of the internet and mobile platforms. Through mechanisms such as real-time feedback, online discussion, agenda setting, and the production of user-generated content, individuals increasingly participate directly in shaping media narratives. This transformation shifts audiences from passive recipients to active contributors, enabling them to exert greater pressure on media organizations and influence the broader communication process. Cultural force refers to the pervasive influence of Chinese civilization and cultural identity on the media system, operating as an intangible yet foundational driver across all levels of media activity. It shapes the values, norms, and symbolic meanings embedded in content, drawing on long-standing historical traditions and collective social consciousness. Unlike other forces tied to specific institutions or groups, cultural force is diffuse and continuous, providing the broader context within which all other forces function and interact. The comparative analysis presents the 6 forces as differentiated along multiple dimensions, including their organizational channels, key actors, modes of influence on media behavior, underlying philosophical orientations, and historical development. The table on page 11 shows that each force operates through distinct mechanisms, ranging from institutional control and regulation to market transactions, professional practices, public participation, and cultural norms, while also revealing their interdependence within the system. This comparison clarifies that the media system is structured not by a single dominant logic, but by the coexistence of diverse, historically rooted forces that collectively shape media outcomes. The 6 forces operate not in isolation, but through continuous interaction characterized by both competition and cooperation, creating a self-balancing mechanism within the media system. The diagram on page 10 illustrates that professional force functions from within media organizations, while party, governmental, and capital forces exert influence externally, and individual and cultural forces extend across and permeate the entire system. This configuration highlights that media outcomes emerge from the dynamic interplay of internal and external pressures, rather than from any single dominant force. The analysis incorporates Laozi's traditional social hierarchy, spanning the individual, family, community, nation, and world, to situate the 6 forces within a broader philosophical framework. By mapping each force onto different levels of this structure, the model illustrates how their influence varies in scope and position within society, from individual participation to national governance and cultural continuity. The diagram on page 16 visualizes this alignment, demonstrating how classical Chinese thought provides a conceptual lens for understanding the layered and interconnected nature of contemporary media dynamics. Regulatory interventions, such as restrictions on entertainment programming imposed by state authorities, illustrate how governmental force can directly reshape media content and industry practices. These policies not only alter programming decisions but also affect revenue models and commercial strategies, thereby influencing capital force alongside media organizations. Such cases demonstrate how the interaction between forces operates in practice, with government action triggering adjustments across the broader media system. The conclusion defines the Chinese media system as a hybrid model, shaped by the coexistence of multiple ideological traditions, including communism, authoritarianism, liberalism, professionalism, democratic participant theory, and cultural nationalism. Rather than being governed by a single dominant force, the system functions through continuous interaction and negotiation among these influences, producing a dynamic equilibrium in which stability emerges from the balancing of competing political, economic, social, and cultural pressures. The discussion highlights the absence of a fully developed public service media model in China comparable to those found in other countries, noting that media functions are instead distributed across multiple competing forces. It further suggests that ongoing media convergence, particularly through digital and network technologies, will intensify the interaction among the six forces, leading to more complex hybrid configurations and opening new directions for research into the evolving dynamics of the Chinese media system. Despite its conceptual richness, the framework remains largely qualitative and descriptive, with limited empirical validation or operationalization of the proposed forces, which constrains its analytical precision and testability. The emphasis on systemic balance and coexistence may also understate power asymmetries, particularly the dominant role of party and governmental control, which arguably shape the boundaries within which other forces operate. Nevertheless, the model provides a useful heuristic for capturing the complexity and hybridity of China's media environment and opens avenues for further research, especially in examining how these forces evolve under conditions of technological change and increasing media convergence.